Have you ever thought about the possibility of a hidden order to everything? A secret language that's written not in words, but in numbers. For centuries, people have been searching for exactly these kinds of patterns in sacred texts, almost like they're looking for a divine fingerprint. Well, today, we're diving into a theory that claims to have found that fingerprint in the Quran, and it all kicks off with a number spotted on the side of a taxi.
Okay, so it all starts with this number, 1729. I mean, at first glance, it looks totally random, right? Just another number and an endless sea of them. But believe it or not, this number holds a fascinating secret, one that completely captivated one of the greatest mathematical minds in history. So, the story goes something like this. The famous mathematician, G.H. Hardy, goes to visit his colleague, the genius Srinivasa Ramanujan. Hardy mentions that the number of his taxi, 1729, was pretty boring. But Ramanujan, supposedly without even pausing, says, no, it is a very interesting number. And why? Because it's the smallest number you can get by adding two cubed numbers together in two different ways. Just a beautiful, kind of mind-bending piece of math. Okay, a unique mathematical property is one thing. That's cool. But what if a number like 1729 was more than that? What if it was a clue, a marker, intentionally woven into the very fabric of a holy book? And this, right here, is where our explainer really begins. So we have this famous number with a cool backstory, but how in the world does it connect to a much bigger and way more controversial idea? Well, this brings us to the heart of our topic today, a theory that proposes a direct link between this special number, 1729, and the text of the Quran. People call it the Mathani theory. So what exactly is the Masani theory? Well, the basic idea is that the Quran's structure isn't just about words and their meanings, but it's also about numbers. It argues that certain numbers pop up in patterns that are just too complex, too intricate to be a coincidence. Proponents see it as a kind of divine signature. It's really an attempt to build a bridge between the cold, hard logic of math and the deeply personal world of faith. Okay, so the whole theory really boils down to three key numbers. First up is the number 7. This is tied to the 7 verses of the Quran's opening chapter, Al-Fatiha. Then there's the number 19, which is actually mentioned right in the Quran and is central to a whole other numerical theory. And finally, there's our number, 1729, which supporters say acts as this amazing bridge connecting 7 and 19 through its own unique math. So you're probably asking, okay, but how do they actually find these numbers? It's not like they're just printed there in bold. It actually involves a series of very specific mathematical steps, which they call transformations. So they use these special methods. Think of them like little mathematical tools to uncover the hidden patterns. Two of the big ones are digit sums. That's where you just add up the digits of a number again and again until you're left with just one. And the other is product shifts, which is a bit more complex. Let me show you how it works. All right, let's walk through an example. Proponents take the verse counts of the first 3 chapters of the Quran. That's 7, 286, and 200. Step 1, add them up, you get 493. Now, they apply that digit sum method. So 4 plus 9 plus 3, that equals 16. That's still 2 digits, so we do it one more time. 1 plus 6 equals, you guessed it, 7. Their key number emerges. Now here's another one, and this one's a little wilder. It uses what are called the mystery letters. These are combinations of Arabic letters that show up at the start of 29 different chapters. And in an ancient system, every Arabic letter has a number value. So if you add up the values for the letters in chapter 7, you get 161. Do it for chapter 29, you get 71. Add those together, and you get 232. And the final digit sum? 2 plus 3 plus 2. Yep, it's 7 again. But honestly, the most striking claim is way, way more direct than that. And this is the one that really brings it all together. Proponents point out that if you take the numbers of 3 very specific chapters, chapter 7, chapter 13, and chapter 19, and you multiply them, you get exactly 1729. They argue this just can't be a coincidence, especially because all three of those chapters also happen to start with those mystery letters. Okay, I know. This all sounds incredibly intriguing, right? But is it actually proof of a divine code, or is it maybe a classic case of us humans finding patterns where none really exist? Let's take a look at the arguments from both sides.
So supporters see this as that divine fingerprint we talked about, a harmony that's just too complex to be random. But critics raise a huge red flag, and it's called cherry picking. They ask why those specific chapters, why those specific mathematical rules. They argue that if you have enough data to play with and your rules are flexible enough, you can find pretty much any pattern you're looking for. To them, it's not a divine code, it's just creative counting. And it's worth noting that many traditional Islamic scholars are really skeptical of all of this. For them, the real miracle of the Quran is in its message, its powerful language, and its guidance for living, not in some hidden math puzzle. They basically see these theories as a distraction, a kind of numerology that completely misses the point of the text. So, where does that leave us? Well, this whole debate really comes down to a much bigger question about how we as humans search for meaning in the world around us. There are really two fundamentally different ways to see these patterns. Is it some kind of divine treasure map filled with little Easter eggs and clues left there on purpose for believers to find? Or is it more like seeing shapes in the clouds? Our brains are literally wired to find patterns. It's an amazing survival tool. But sometimes that same tool can lead us to see meaning and order where there's only randomness. And so ultimately, the Methani theory forces us to ask a pretty deep question. Whether you're looking at a sacred book, or the stars in the night sky, or even just the numbers in your own life, where do you draw the line between a pattern that's truly meaningful and one that's just a beautiful coincidence? That's definitely a question worth thinking about.